If you wish you could live in the homes you build in video games, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Welcome back, YouTube, to another video where we will be taking a look at all the different things you were able to build in Lynn's Island. I've been playing a lot of this game, especially with the building mechanic. It's not totally straightforward, just exactly what you can unlock and when you can unlock it and how you can unlock it. So I'll be showing you what types of building upgrades you can get with each workbench tier, different style options, and maybe some tips and tricks at the end to make your designs pop. Alright, so let's get into everything. So starting out, you have access to very basic and generic build options, which I've built here. Basically enough tools to build yourself a little shack and some farms. The way to unlock more decorations, you have to build a workbench, shown here. As you can see here, I don't have anything to unlock because I'm already at level 3 workbench. But to unlock items, you have to have machine parts, which are found in barrels that wash up on the shore or within the ancient caves. So just to kind of go through each item that you have upon unlock, I've kind of showcased some of the wall designs here. You have a normal straight wall here, door, window, and then a railing design with a little kind of a bump out railing design, which is kind of one of my more favorite, of your basic designs. Moving to the roof, you've got just a basic sloped roof. You have a corner roof here, like an inverted corner, I guess I should say, and then a corner roof here, or double pitched, and then double pitched here. Moving inside, you'll see that I have these little steps built up so you can kind of more easily access your buildings. Once inside, you'll notice that I've got a bunch of these wooden archways. You have to have these wooden archways built so you can put flooring down, unless you want to have just walls throughout your entire base, but I think it's a little, I really like the design of the archways. And that pretty much wraps up your basic build items. You do have the options later on to upgrade and or just straight up build different styles, but we'll get into all that later. Moving on to the farming tab, right out the gate you'll only have access to the basic wood farm as well as the stone well, which you'll use to water your farm. Moving into the utility, you're going to have your workbench, which you use to unlock everything like I mentioned before. Tools, weapons, shields, collections. I've already finished the collections. All the different little doodads. And then you'll have access to your tool storage and weapon storage, which you'll use to pull out different types. I do wish they would just rename this to chest, because it doesn't really make, or just storage chest, just because it doesn't really make sense to me that they've got, weapons and tools in here and they call it tool chest, but that's just me being a little bit nuanced about it. The other option too, you have this is a bed which you can sleep or save the game in, sleep the past time so it's not so dark out. Moving on to decorations, and you'll notice if you haven't unlocked everything, you'll notice that there'll be a bunch of grayed out spots, and I don't really like how they do this. I wish that they would just keep everything grayed out to the bottom, and then as you unlock things, it'll move everything to where it needs to be. I understand why it's done this way, because you're not going to have access to these two items and they go together, so once you unlock it, it does populate the area, but it just kind of makes it confusing because it kind of just jumps all around. But basically, this is what you'll have options to building: basic carpet, medium size plotters, chair, a little candle light for nighttime so you can see, this little set of drawers, and then a table. So pretty bare bones just right out the gate. Now moving on to what I'm calling the advanced one, which is once you've got the workbench built and you start unlocking items. I'm going to kind of jump around here, but starting with the farming, because there's really only one thing. You've got the wooden garden bed, which it's good for aesthetic purposes, but as using it as an actual farm, I don't care for it, because it's a lot smaller. You have less things to plant, so it's kind of more of a decorative item in my opinion. Moving on to the build options, this is when I think you kind of get a little bit better options for building. You can see here, I'm gonna cut this damn tree down. That's better. So moving on, you can see you've got this wooden circular window, very Hobbit-ish, which I really like, as well as this little kind of extruded window, which I really like. I like the design on. I wish that your character could, like, I don't know, sit down or lay onto the little cushions, because that'd be pretty cool to just have your Lynn chill out for a little bit, get some well-needed R&R. And then coming up to the roof, I think this is when your roof designs kind of really open up as well, because I really dig the dormer roof style. Which, for those of you who don't know, this is an actual style in building, the dormer style, where basically you have a window that kind of sticks out of a roof area. Then moving inside, and that pretty much wraps up the actual build options, which is pretty much all in this one level that opens up. Moving on to the utilities, this is quite possibly the best and most OP piece of gear in the entire game, which is your refinery. You pretty much can input stone that you find and put some kind of fuel in there, whether that's wood or coal. Each one does a different purpose. Wood burns hotter but doesn't last as long, so it burns, you get more, it outputs faster is what I'm trying to get at. Coal burns slower, but it just takes a little bit longer. But you can input stone or clay or limestone and it'll output each one of these different types. And this is basically going to be your god king for getting iron shards, because it just makes things so much faster. And then moves on to the fireplace as well, which you use to make bread at this point. I think in the future you'll be able to cook your fish in here to get different buffs, but other than that, I don't really make bread to make money. I think there's better options that require a lot less micromanaging. If there's a way to automate that, then I'll probably switch over, but as of right now, I don't really mess with the fireplace. It's just kind of more of a aesthetic piece. Moving on to the actual decorations, you unlock your large bookshelf, which I think is a great design tool to kind of make your bases look more alive inside. Coming down, you unlock this larger circular table as well as a little circular rug, and then the small pot plant, which can really make your bases look alive. As well as one of my favorite light sources is the ornate lamp. It costs a little bit. It costs iron shards. In early game, you kind of want to be holding on to your iron shards, so it's sort of hard as a new player to balance between being able to build a cool aesthetic base and, you know, using it for farming supplies and weapons and stuff like that. So I really like the design of the lamp, especially if you can actually like kind of merge it, because you can kind of put it into a wall, so it gets rid of this post and makes it almost look like the lamp is hanging off. But I'll go into those kind of design tips later. Moving on, that pretty much wraps up the advanced one, and then you're going to be pigeonholed into, I'm going to go ahead and go to sleep real quick before I continue on, just because it's getting dark out and I want you guys to be able to see everything. That's better. Our Lynn is well rested and ready to continue our journey. And now I'm going to cut down these trees because they're in the way. Alrighty, so now we're well rested and we cut those trees down. So this is where you're kind of pigeonholed into having to advance your workbench to get to the next set of tools and items that you want to be able to build. And this unlocks, kind of start with farming just because it's a little bit easier here. This unlocks probably the more important pieces in the game for you, besides kind of the refinery, because this is when you can actually start kind of semi-automating your farming process. Here's a water tower. It's very costly, but it's well worth it. You basically just fill it up with water from the well, and it'll auto water your plants. So when you get back from adventure, just make sure that you can continue filling it up. And then here's the lattice. The lattice, you can grow grapes, which are probably your best options for healing yourself during combat. They heal for a lot, and it's not as time consuming as making bread. And you need a windmill to make bread, so that's pretty like late tier. But yeah, here's our actual grapes right now growing on the lattices. So I recommend building all these guys around your base. Moving on to the next category in the build option, you come down here, you have the half railing, which you see here. I really love decorating with this, especially like at the base of stairwells. You have the Belvedere roof style, which is pretty cool. I like using it. It kind of helps break up some of your more generic flat roofs. And then a wood half wall, kind of also a great design tool, just kind of keep things, kind of keep your base with some texture. And then a little pyramid topper roof, which is not here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so that's pretty much just a little pyramid topper, kind of the name explains itself. Moving inside to utilities, these are pretty cool. I actually really like these. So here's your tool chest, which you can actually, which is an easier way, kind of streamline just being able to access your tools, but also most importantly, you can display your different tools so everyone can see kind of how badass you are and how much cool stuff you've unlocked. Same with the weapon rack. You can display kind of your favorite weapons, or kind of just, give like an armory. If you want to build like an armory with a cool, vibe, you can use that. Moving on to the actual decorations, and that actually wraps up the rest of all the utility and storage. You cannot unlock anything else at this point. One thing that's actually in utility storage, which I kind of think it should be more of maybe a decoration, because it's kind of more of a decoration than an actual utility, but is this gramophone. I've never really used one in my life because I'm too young for that, but you can just choose whatever music you want to play, and that's pretty cool. Plus it looks great. And there it goes. Moving on to the decorations, you can see here you've got your large candle stick, candelabra, if you will. Your small candelabra, your small bookshelf, which I like too. It's a little bit more kind of a personal bookshelf. Your little comfy chair, and then a big ass leather chair, as well as a map of Lens Island, which is kind of cool. Kind of more display piece. It doesn't actually have any function, unfortunately. And then a large rug, and then moving on to a little small coffee table, which you've got the gramophone on it, as well as a pile of books and some fruits, bananas, and what appears to be apples. And then we've got, this was what added actually in the new update. This is actually added from the new Pagoda update. Is your friendly little, your friendly combat dummy, which you can actually hit him to kind of, maybe you want to test out different weapons or whatnot, but he's just here to kind of hang out and be friends. One other thing that I just realized I forgot to mention is that you unlock the use of these signs. The signs are kind of buggy right now. For example, if I come here and press space to go to the next thing, I jump and it takes me off. Or if I come here to, because I was trying to type in tiers, but if you do, oh, now it's working. Oh, you know why? Well, I can see my grapes are ready, but you just harvest them. Boom. And moving on, and that pretty much wraps up their second tier options, build options. And this brings us to the final workbench, tier 3. Starting with farming again, you've got the wooden fences, which I would love for them to add some kind of, farmable animals, which we can make pastures for. And this brings us to the probably, I know I've said this a lot, but one of the more important pieces of farming, the windmill. It's used to grind grain, but most importantly, it automates the whole farming process. And I believe it's changing in the future. I don't know. I think they said maybe roughly like a 6-month timeline farming. The whole powering process is going to change. But as of right now, the windmill powers the water tower, which then automates the whole water. It basically just fills it up for you. So you pretty much, all you have to do is just harvest your crops. Moving inside, like I said, we finished with utilities, but we're not moving inside. Starting outside, we're looking at, you've got this flat roof, looks cool, breaks up some of your designs. My favorite is this is the large window. I think you've got a lot of really cool options with this. Get this out of the way. And that's only really it for exterior use. Coming interior, you can see right here that you've got this wooden skylight, and then as well as a this wooden hatch, which you can actually place a ladder inside of. I know right now that climbing the ladder is kind of a pain in the ass, but it's a little bit actually easier to do these straight up ladders than it is to do like the slope ladder, because you basically just double jump on it and boom, you're up. So this will kind of help you make a little bit more compact of a base. And moving inside to the last little bit of decorations, this is kind of when you get more your bougie decorations. Kind of starting from the top, you get the large potting plant, you have the large set of drawers, you get this cool little gold globe, as well as this little light. You have the square rug, you get a metal chair, as well as a metal table, grandfather clock, this pagoda little lamp thing, bamboo lantern. And you get this, which is pretty cool, the lightstone lamp. It is very costly to craft because you need one lightstone, and lightstones sort of used for, especially like if you're trying to unlock all the different pieces of gear, you have to do a bit of farming for lightstone. And then I can't remember if you get this, just have this right out the gate, or if you have to actually defeat the void boar. But you have this cool little option for a like a fire pit sort of thing. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps up your build options for the game. I do believe that they are working on different designs and different options for things that you can build. So we'll have to stay tuned and hopefully have an update on different maybe decorations that they've added to the game. But as for right now, oh, this tree just grew right as I walked over it. But as for now, let's hop on over and we'll look at some different, fun design tips to kind of help make your bases pop. I wanted to touch base on some of the building tips that I mentioned earlier. Some of these to you may seem obvious and maybe more related to beginners, but anyways, just wanted to touch on it, kind of give a couple of my pointers to kind of help your buildings kind of explode with life and look a little bit more dynamic and not as kind of neutral. But one of the biggest things I'd say is to use a variety of the different styles of building. You can see here, I really like the dark wood of the pagoda mixed with the kind of the grayness of the stone and then the gray of the ornate rails. I think it really looks really well together. It works really well together. I've used it on a lot of my builds already, but I just kind of quickly threw this bridge together just to kind of showcase how it kind of can all mesh together. Because especially like in games like Minecraft, I tend to sort of lean towards the darker woods anyways. I'm not as fan as the more generic kind of just natural wood color. But yeah, so kind of combining all these elements kind of just really brings the whole thing to life and kind of just gives it a level of complexity. One of the other things too that I like to do, especially with these ornate lamps, is how you can kind of almost put them into walls. So even if you were to kind of just sneak this into this wall right here, like such, it almost looks like that it's actually hanging off of the stone itself and not so much, because it's kind of embedded into the stone and not so much just an actual post. So that's definitely an option that you can use in some of your bases. Other options you can do is, if you see here, there's this kind of center rail on the post, but you can really just line it up directly on that post and almost make it look like that it's part of the rail itself. So kind of little neat tricks like that kind of can just, make your base look that much kind of like flow and mesh together. But yeah, that's kind of my big generic tip, is to just work with the different elements. I mean, because you've got all sorts of different types between wood, stone, ornate, and pagoda, that you can really, these colors kind of work well together. Wood and ornate work really well together. Wood and stone really work well together. Really, they kind of all, the only color that I don't really think really works well together would be wood and pagoda, because it's just different shades of wood. Some of you may be able to make some kind of cool designs with it, but personally, I just don't like how that looks. But everything else sort of meshes really, really well to decent together. Just to kind of bring this home in a couple more smaller, just overall tips, using these kind of curved archways to sort of break up the boxiness. Because if you were to remove this element to it, it just, you're just looking at just vertical walls. But you can really use this. It's not going to let me work because this damn tree's in the way, but oh, come on. Let's try it up here. There we go. So using that archway kind of just really helps kind of break up just the vertical face of the wall, kind of just give it that much level of texture. The other fun thing that I like to do as well, you can kind of see it being used here, is as long as you're pretty much above the foundations, you can really have kind of go crazy with your builds in terms of building bridges. You can see here basically what you do is just start with just a generic foundation, and boom, get a generic foundation down, have some sort of ladder or some sort of ladder or staircase going up to it, and then once you get these wooden archways up, you're free to just put down a floor type, and then you just come back and then boom, delete all these floors. And because this game doesn't really have any physics to it, at least with building, this piece is just going to be floating, so you can use that to kind of build yourself a little bridge that goes across. your base, which is super, it kind of just makes your shit just look a little bit cooler. And that's just, in my opinion. I do wish they had some sort of, you know, the structural engineer in me do wishes they had some sort of like a beam that you could put in to kind of give it that, you know, just not a slab of floor there look. Just kind of give it a little bit more of a stronger look. But hopefully we'll add that later. But yeah, that's kind of the final question. Just have fun with it. Kind of, you don't have to, you know, obviously copy exactly what I'm doing with it, but you want to make things as you know, your own as possible. But I hope these tips and different base building guide was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please drop in the comment section below. As always, see you next time, YouTube.